Thanks for joining us. I'm Megan Roberts in Cambridge Bay, Nunavut. We begin in the Northwest Territories, where the community of Wati is evacuating due to a nearby wildfire. Officials in Wati declared a state of local emergency this morning and ordered residents to leave. The community of around 500 people is evacuating to Betchakon and Yellowknife. Wati is on the southeast side of Lac La Martre and a 167-kilometer drive from Betchakon. Crews have been battling a wildfire less than 10 kilometers away from the community. It had been on an evacuation notice since Wednesday evening, with officials warning residents to prepare to leave at a moment's notice. This is the first evacuation order in the NWT this summer, and it comes unusually late in the year. The CBC's Sarah St. Pierre has more on how residents are doing.
It's been a long day for the residents of Wati. They watched smoke roll into their community this morning before being told to report to a cultural center to register for evacuation. The Wati fire had gotten too close.
It was very, very calm. It wasn't like a very rush pace. People understood, we had nurses and again, our SIMP and counselors on staff reminding people, be vigilant, be calm, and, we'll get you here all safely out of here.
Wati was placed under evacuation alert on Wednesday. The community had been preparing for things to escalate.
The guys have been working endlessly throughout this week. There are sprinklers on people's homes, not just one, not just two. We're talking about like 4 to a home. And that's just the outskirts of the community, right? So the people that are nearby bushes or the tree line or the shoreline, so they're well prepared.
There are at least a dozen volunteers staying behind in Wati. They're coordinating with community government staff. If they need to evacuate, they say the plan is to retreat by boat to cabins owned by the Klitschko government. Yellowknife is the main host for evacuees and will be welcoming people at the field house and multiplex. While Yellowknife gets ready, Betchakon will act as a temporary haven.
We've gone through evacuations ourselves before, and so we know how much family and community is very important to make sure that we all stay with each other and support each other and be there for each other. So we're opening up our community to host evacuees.
There are close to 200 cots available at the Sportsplex in Betchakon. Evacuees who register there will be provided with meals and will have access to medical and counseling resources. Sarah St. Pierre, CBC News, Yellowknife.
As you heard from Sarah, Betchakon and Yellowknife will be hosting evacuees. The Betchakon Sportsplex is open, registering people and providing meals. And in Yellowknife, workers from the city have spent the day preparing the field house and multiplex gym.
Yeah, so the city got a call from, I'm assuming Wati, they're evacuating to Yellowknife. So our department and a different department got called in to set up cots, pillows and blankets for the evacuees to come use when they come into town.
Evacuees started arriving in Yellowknife late this afternoon. The facilities will be unavailable for public use until further notice. Hot weather throughout the Yukon this week has prompted a higher fire risk. Yukon Wildland Fire Management is urging residents to be careful with fire in all its forms heading into the long weekend.
Similar advice as usual, but something to highlight this weekend, we are expecting pleasant temperatures and also windy conditions. So wind is a factor that I think people don't always think of, but if you're out and about and you want to have a campfire and you're noticing it's really windy, that might not be the best choice for that particular night. But if it's not too windy and you want to have a campfire, pick your spot carefully, make sure there's nothing burnable around, have enough water on hand to put that out. And when it's time to call it a night, don't abandon your campfire. Make sure, especially right now, that you're soaking it and stirring it until it's cool to the touch.
Richie says fire ratings are moderate to high. There are currently 140 wildfires across the Yukon. However, Richie says less land has been impacted than the previous 3 years. Two candidates are in the running to become the next president of the National Representative for Inuit. Inuit Tapiriit Kanatami's current president is running again and faces a new challenger. TJ Deer reports.
He was a former host of CBC Nunavut radio show Kullik and the managing editor at CBC Yellowknife, but he also has experience with other organizations that matter to Inuit, including Canadian North and Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated. Kevin Kablutsiak now wants to lead Inuit Tapiriit Kanatami to the future.
I have spent pretty much my life listening and learning and helping others to tell their stories. And I want to ensure that the national voices of Inuit continues to reflect the hopes and the concerns and the strengths of our people.
Kablutsiak is one of two candidates running for the ITK presidency. He says housing and mental health are two of the biggest issues that need addressing.
It's clear that these are very long-standing issues amongst Inuit for our communities. And so, obviously, that would be at the forefront of my work.
He's up against the incumbent. Natan Obed has been serving as ITK's president for the last decade. In the previous election in 2021, he ran unopposed. Obed says he didn't plan on running this time, but political instability around the world and a change of government at home compelled him to change his mind.
I'm reinvigorated to continue on in this role, to serve Inuit, and to use the experience that I now have for the betterment of all of our Inuit Nunavut regions.
Obed says he wants to oversee the federal government implementing Bill C-5 to benefit Inuit, as well as the creation of the Inuit Nunavut University. He's also advocating for support for housing and mental illness, including suicide prevention. Both candidates will make their case on Election Day. That's on September 18th in Cambridge Bay, Nunavut, following ITK's AGM. Votes will be cast by delegates from the 4 Inuit land claims organizations, as well as the Canadian arm of the Inuit Circumpolar Council. TJ Deer, CBC News, Iqaluit.
The legal representative for Inuit in Nunavut has approved millions of dollars for housing across the territory. Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated, or NTI, says some of that funding will help provide homes for women, youth, and elders in crisis. It also approved a policy to guide the $135 million Nunavut Inuit Housing Fund. That money will go to a new housing entity called Igluvut, which will involve the 3 regional Inuit organizations in the territory. NTI says it'll help set affordable housing rates for housing built by those organizations.
It's something that we're very excited about to make sure that our housing crisis is being faced across the territory, and each region will be receiving those funds as well as NTI to start building homes.
NTI's board of directors had been meeting since the beginning of this week. Those meetings wrapped up on Thursday. There's concern in some Nunavut communities around how much renewable energy can be produced before the grid maxes out. 4 communities in Nunavut's north currently use solar panels. The Kudlik Energy Corporation, or QEC, is the sole utility provider in the territory. It says there's no policy to limit the use of renewable power systems in Nunavut, but there are local limits in place in some communities to protect their grids. The Vice President of Corporate Affairs at QEC says grids in the high Arctic can only take so much, but the corporation still encourages the use of clean power sources.
We're excited about renewable energy, and the reason why we have these policies and procedures are in place is to offset our use of diesel.
The Northwest Territories Power Corporation has a 30% limit on power generation from renewable sources. QEC says it will probably introduce a similar cap in the future. And Nunavut's minimum wage is going up this long weekend. Starting Monday, residents will be making at least $19.75 per hour. That's the highest minimum wage rate in Canada, and it's a 75-cent increase over the current minimum wage. The change comes as part of a new annual adjustment system from the government of Nunavut. It's meant to reflect the cost of living and wage trends across the territory.
You know the story. When the RCAF said Mach 2 fighter, 2-place 1,000-mile range, the British said it was impossible. The Yanks tried twice and failed. They said, you're dreaming. We said, fine, we'll build it right here in Toronto. And now you guys, my guys, are saying that it can't be done, that they were right?
Now that's the rocket that we used to get the model up to speed, and then the onboard sensors tell us that...
Come on, baby.
Damn it! But we did it according to your specs. The specs have changed.
We did it.
Arrow 201. You're cleared for takeoff.
Although the government cancelled the project and destroyed the prototypes, the Avro Arrow remains for Canada a world benchmark in aerospace achievement.
The future is everything. Stories of incredible ingenuity, dedication, and some extraordinary teamwork. This is parenthood.
Take a voyage with me to the vast, remote, most extreme place on Earth.
For many, this will be a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
Where the effects of climate change are intensifying.
The poles are a very rapidly changing place.
And geopolitical cracks threaten peace and stability.
Do you think there's a security concern?
I definitely do.
Experience the historic all-Canadian mission. CBC in Antarctica. Watch free on CBC Gem.
Hello, I'm Paul Andrew. Here's George Tuckeroo with the news.
Thanks, Paul. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Carol Morin.
That's Northbeat for tonight. I'm Nadira Beg. Good night.
Good evening. I'm Randy Henderson. We start in the Northwest Territories.
Good evening. I'm Kate Kyle.
I'm Hillary Bird.
Shannon Scott.
Juanita Taylor. And this is Northbeat.
Welcome back. Tonight is our last night broadcasting from Cambridge Bay, Nunavut. I'm currently at the Canadian High Arctic Research Station, or CHARS. It's a hub for the scientific community, much like Cambridge Bay is a hub for the Inuit. And with climate change, the community could become a hub for increasing international ship traffic. Earlier, I spoke to the executive director of the Inuit Association about what's next for the region. Fred, thank you for being here with me today. I'll start by asking just what the priorities for KIA are right now.
Okay, for priorities, our board is actually just completing a new strategic plan, which will bring us new priorities. But from our last plan, our priorities were culture and education programming for beneficiaries, community-based so that they can hold those programs right in the communities. And then we have the B2 Gold Goose Lake Mine opening, grand opening next week here in Cambridge Bay and at the mine site. And we also have the Agnico Hope Bay Mine, which is in care and maintenance right now. They're hoping to be open, producing gold again by 2030. So, you know, in the next few years, we'll have 2 producing gold mines in the region, and that should bring a lot of employment and contracting opportunities for Inuit firms and beneficiaries.
Yeah, infrastructure in general is a big priority right now for the federal government. We've got some mines coming, which brings a lot of economic opportunity. I'm just wondering what you think about the Grays Bay Port and Road, what you've been hearing from people, whether anyone's concerned, excited, what people are saying.
Okay, well, that project was actually spearheaded by KIA originally. We were the original proponent for it. We're no longer the proponent, but our board is still a big supporter of the project. We see benefits that can benefit not only the mining industry, but also our communities. As you can see, our resupply just came in today, our first ship of the season. It comes from Eastern Canada, and we're at the end of August now. We've had open water from Grays Bay to Kugluktuk and Cambridge Bay since early July. So with the Grays Bay Road and Port there, we could be doing sea lift from those areas, by mid-July to the western communities at least. So that allows, construction goods and other goods to come into the community a bit earlier, which, lengthens the construction season and things like that.
And, recently we learned that the project would move forward with the environmental review. So I'm just wondering, with a project of this scale, with so much federal interest right now in these, what they're calling nation building projects, how do you balance a project like this with mitigation for environmental impact and people's food sources?
Well, yeah, obviously there's a lot of concerns with big projects. Caribou is a big concern. Our board believes that the process set up under the Nunavut Agreement with the institutions of public government, that process will work and help find mitigation efforts so that projects can proceed, but in the most environmentally sound way possible. For the nation building type projects, Bill C5, our board is supportive of it because they know the Nunavut Agreement processes will be followed. So the NERB process, the Nunavut Water Board process, will be followed for any major project in Nunavut, including the Grays Bay project. So our board is confident that process will help the project move forward in the most environmentally sensitive way possible.
And there's been a lot of focus on Arctic sovereignty lately as well, which feeds into these infrastructure conversations. So I wonder what KIA thinks the federal government needs to do to make Canada a truly Arctic nation and also make it really positive for its Arctic peoples.
Well, I think the government needs to do more investment, obviously, in security infrastructure, I guess. The Grays Bay Road and Port could be a good example of that. The port could be a good location for Canada's Navy. They could have ships there. They could have a small base there. There's going to be an airstrip there, so it could help the Air Force as well. It would, with the NWT project, where they want to turn their ice road into an all-season road, it would meet up with the Grays Bay Road, so there would be an all-season road from Grays Bay to Yellowknife, which connects to the National Highway system. So, that for mobility, whether it's for security or people, they'd be able to move up through that road system up to the Arctic coast, and then, in the wintertime, there could be ice roads up to our communities. In the summertime, earlier sea lift opportunities. And so Canada needs to invest like other northern countries have invested in the north. And the buildings or the infrastructure should be multi-purpose, not just for the military, but should be for the people that live up here as well. It's got to benefit us.
Okay. Fred, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hundreds of tourists deboard cruise ships each summer to explore Cambridge Bay. Many of them are former scientists and academics, but when it comes to the Arctic, they don't always know much, especially about the communities. So who better to show them than the kids growing up there?
I like showing people around the town, and I like answering their questions because they're all different and unique.
The guides are athletes, and fielding those questions is helping them raise money to travel and compete. There's one question Mala says visitors are most curious about.
The most question I've been asked about is the sewage lagoon. And I've had to explain it to them about how they dump it there and where it is. And they find it so fascinating. It's crazy.
Mala says the experience has helped her overcome shyness and made her more curious about the world. 8 more cruise ships are scheduled to anchor in Cambridge Bay over the next 2 weeks. Nunavut residents are hitting the courts in one of the region's only volleyball tournaments. Kuujjuaq is hosting the games, which started on Thursday night. Organizers say it's the first adult tournament to bring in players from other communities. There are 5 teams, but outside Kuujjuaq, only a team from Inuit could make it due to logistical challenges. Regardless, organizers say there's a lot of excitement among the players.
Which is my favorite sports in volleyball. And it's very meaningful. Other youth that they have something to do during instead of staying at home and be more active.
The tournament runs until Monday. Sequalak hopes the next event will be bigger and better. A group of hunters in Rankin Inlet, Nunavut had the chance to get together and hunt for caribou meat. It's part of a program run by a nonprofit in the community. The CBC's Noel Kalujak has more.
Earlier this month, a group of young men from Rankin Inlet went out on a trip to learn how to hunt caribou, skin and butcher the meat. That is so they can share the meat with elders. They set up camp in the Chesterfield Inlet Channel. Ilitak Sinik organized the 4-day trip. During that time, the 13 hunters harvested 11 caribou. The hardest part was carrying the meat to the boats that were 3 miles away at times. The youth endured even though they were tired, says program coordinator Simeon Dion.
We had really good guides in the Elder Pierre Pelagic with Joseph Jr. Kalujuak and Leo Kalujuak with Uki Makpa as captains on the 3 boats did very well. I commend the young men who took part.
They ground the meat and packed them into vacuum bags. Every piece of the caribou was used. The hooves were saved for cooking. Even the bone marrow was extracted. They then shared their hunt with the elders in Rankin Inlet. At first, Elder Ulima Pisuk was speechless.
Oh wow, thank you. I'm going to eat fresh caribou meat.
Elder Monica Ugjuk also says she needed fresh meat.
I am very happy. I have not had caribou meat in a while and I was craving for fresh meat.
Program coordinator Simeon Dion says the event went very well and he hopes to do it again. Noel Kalujak, CBC News, Rankin Inlet.
And we apologize, we're just having some technical difficulties. We're working to get our feedback with Megan, but until then, I'm Robert Holden and I will be your host. The Yukon First Nations School Board has a new art exhibit in Whitehorse. It features pieces from young learners across the territory who were given the prompt of showing up as their authentic selves. The CBC's Isabella Calisi went down to the exhibit to see what the young artists came up with.
This piece was done by a 14-year-old youth from Haines Junction, and basically it takes you through all the steps that you would need to do in order to make a squirrel blanket.
Back in May, the First Nations School Board put out a call to its students asking for art submissions. That's after several youth came up with the idea to have a gallery showcasing their art. The board says it received several proposals from artists as young as 6 years old and as old as 20. The only guideline was to create pieces around the theme of I am more than you see.
So essentially, youth in some of the communities were talking about how they didn't necessarily think that it was fair that youth in the city got more exposure to different types of people and other people got to see their art more. And so this kind of came to be because they wanted that equalized opportunity to have their art showcased. So they could choose any form of art that they saw as art. We didn't mandate any certain medium or any materials that they had to use. It's whatever they interpret as art, so long as it was showing who they are, because youth are, filled with lots of layers, and that's what we wanted to see. What is more than what we physically see?
One contributor is a recent graduate and lives in Haines Junction. He's a Champagne, Asiatic, and Tlingit artist who does mainly form-line paintings. Although he's recognized around town for his work, he says rural artists aren't really shown off as much as others.
I feel like even up here we need like a art museum just to show off local artists from past and present days. Because down south there's a lot more recognition for big city artists instead of rural artists.
The exhibit is located in the Kwanlindang Cultural Center and will be on display until September 10th. Isabella Calisi, CBC News, Whitehorse.
And it looks like we weren't quite able to get our feedback there. A big thank you to Megan Roberts and the rest of the team in Cambridge Bay, Nunavut. That is Northbeat for tonight. For news anytime, head to cbc.ca/north. Thank you for watching. We leave you tonight with some shots from the river in Cambridge Bay. It's prime time for Arctic char fishing, and people are stacking up. I'm Robert Holden in Yellowknife. Have a great weekend.